Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have another awesome system to show you on the bench, and it's a Dell. We know how much we love our Dells on this channel, and this is no exception. Today we have a Dell Precision mobile workstation in absolute pristine condition. It's hard to believe that this M4600 was built in 2011. And the fact that it's 12 years old and in this great a shape, I can't wait to go through this with everybody. So let's get right to it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just kind of go over the system as we do, the exterior, and then we'll load it up and kind of see what kind of hardware came with the system from 2011. And, this is really pushing the edge of, kind of what I want to do on the channel, but it being a Dell and in this greatest shape, and it being 12 years old, the hardware is still older in this, and there's been some debate on the channel through some of the different comments on different Dell videos about, taking some older hardware and bringing it up to speed, making some different tweaks, whether it's you install Linux on it that allows you to use older hardware and new environments, or you take, certain hardware that can support Windows 10 and stretch the limits of what you can do with the system. This system may be within that category ish. So let's kind of go over the system. So the first thing we do at the very top, the system is built, it feels like a magnesium alloy type metal chassis on the system. And you can see, just beautiful look to the system. And, it has a lot of heft to it. I believe this comes in at just over 6.5 pounds or around 6.5 pounds. And that's with the 6-cell lithium ion battery. These ones, to my understanding, did come with a 9-cell as well, but we'll go over that in a minute. So in the front here, we have just a latch, a single latch, which opens up the top of the system. And you can see, even with the latch closed, there's quite a bit of play here, and it looks like there's kind of a bit of a twist in the screen. Now, to my understanding, this has been like this. I'm not sure if it's something to do with the age of the system or over time. Just talking about the build quality, it's physically amazing. But, that, again, I don't know if that's, design intent and maybe keeping, how sometimes laptop keyboards can indent themselves on the actual LCD. So it could be that. But again, just one thing I've noticed. Now, switching it around here, we have quite a bit of ports to show everyone on this system. So here we have the physical wireless switch to turn on and off, similar to if you're going to be going into airplane mode versus using any sort of software functionality. This is the hardware switch. Here it looks like the hard drive, accessible hard drive bay. So that's something that, the Dell Precision line being their top sort of business line. And this, again, is touting that it is a mobile workstation. So designed for like CAD users and graphics designers and things like that, and high-end business users. And, they never really said much about gaming, but gaming kind of was, kind of fit in the middle there somewhere. And then we have a couple of USB ports, and it says the SS symbol on them. So that indicates that it is super speed, which is USB 3. What gen, not exactly sure, but definitely USB 3 ports. So nice to have that on the system. And the display port here, the full size display port here as well, which would allow, Dells were popular with having display ports. So this would allow you to have multiple different types of connectivity to the system, whether it was DVI, HDMI, you'd have your VGA, etc. So you go through there. Let's flip it around the back and see what we have. So on the back, we have two gigantic fans. So I imagine one would be cooling the CPU and one would be cooling the graphics or the chipset in the system. So definitely nice to have through the back of the system. And then we have built-on VGA, which is nice, again, in conjunction with that port as well, the the display port. So it's nice to have that. And then we have our Ethernet, which of course in 2011 is probably gigabit Ethernet. Then here we have eSATA, so external SATA connectivity, which is, in 2011, I'm not sure, age-wise when that came out, so I'm not sure how new that would have been coming out. But again, this sports itself as being a high-end laptop of the time, one of the higher-end laptops. And then we have an HDMI port. So when you think about it, we have HDMI, we have our VGA, we have our monitor itself built on, of course, and then we have a display port. I mean, you could theoretically hook up 6, assuming the graphics card supports this, 6. You could support 3 external video connections. I don't know why I said 6. And then it'll have the display. So, I mean, that gives you a lot of versatility for that as well. And then we have our typical Dell adapter. Now, I'll say this again, one of these types of connectors, the barrel connectors, I love Apple's version of it, where it's a maglock type thing, where, in case you have any sort of issues with the cord, or, this gets twisted or bumped against something, then you don't have that worry about snapping something off or doing damage to the charging port inside. And then we have our Kensington lock port here as well. And we have 2 standard USB ports by the looks of things. We just have USB 1 and 2 here. We have a 1394 connection, which is good, I guess. That's one thing I never ever got into or used, was a 1394 connection. It came with the systems I've owned, but never really used them. And then we have our microphone and our headset ports, which is also awesome here. And we have an indicator of our battery on the side here. And we also have a power indicator, a power light on the side. So it's on the side versus like something that would be under the screen here, which we'll talk about soon. And then it looks like we have an SD card slot here as well, which is also awesome. And we also have an expansion port here. It says EC and SC here as well. And then we have our optical drive. Now, this doesn't look like it's removable. This more looks like, it's not modular. To my understanding, this is a Blu-ray drive, but not just a Blu-ray drive. It's also a Blu-ray writer drive. So RW drive. So definitely handy, expanding. At the time, when you think about the age of the system, Blu-rays and having the media, you could store quite a bit of data, specifically on a rewritable. So nice having that as well. Let's look at the bottom here. So at the bottom, we have lots of vents as well again. So we have the 4 vents here, and then we have our expansion port here. This is generally designed or had on business type laptops or performance-based laptops, in this case a mobile workstation, where you would have that docking port latch. You just snap it in, and all of a sudden your machine is now running on external peripheral devices. And then we have additional cooling here. Now, just by looking at this, it looks like there's some expansion memory here in this port. And then we have some other stuff here. And again, I'm just looking through the grid here outside of not knowing. And then here, it looks like we have a battery we can just eject here. Yeah, so this would be probably the 6-cell battery that we have. And, so far it seems to be pretty good. It doesn't seem to be bulging at all. So that's the machine itself and the general overview. Now, the actual power brick itself. Now, with it being such a hefty machine and talking about being a mobile workstation, comes a big, heavy power adapter. And this particular power adapter, the output is 19.5 volt, 9.23 amps, so fairly hefty. I'm just looking to see if I can see any wattage on here. I'm not sure, so yeah, I'm not seeing any wattage. All right, I'm going to plug this in just to get it sorted out, and we'll plug it into the back of the machine. Now, I happen to know that this machine's battery is dead. It's just absolutely dead, isn't it? That won't do anything. Doesn't hold a charge at all. Machine instantly turns off, and yeah. Awesome condition of the machine. There's absolutely no dents or damage. You saw the condition of it as we went through. It almost looks like a brand new machine, outside of the fact that it's just so darn heavy. All right, let's open up this machine here and see what it looks like. Okay, so on the outside, equally as nice on the inside. Here is the overall system that we have in front of us. And it's just absolutely, like, the actual footprint of the machine is quite large here. It's very well planted, not going anywhere. And you get that feeling of being immersed into the system, sporting that it is a mobile workstation. This is, it's mobile, but has the power of a really decent at the time, decent to high-end desktop system. That's what they were aiming to do here, and give you all the creature comforts you would want to have in a portable solution, and be able to go on the road and be able to do these things and pull it out in a presentation and not be limited by a bunch of dongles, adapters. You can see by all the different ports that are on the system. So here we have the beautiful screen, the Dell Precision symbol there. We also have a webcam up top here. You don't see it there because I'm trying to eliminate some of the glare. But we have the built-on webcam and built-on speaker built into the actual screen, which is nice specifically for web conferencing. And then here we have a volume controls, hard volume controls on the system, physical volume controls. So we have mute, volume down, volume up, and then what looks to be two itty-bitty speakers. So you know me and laptops, and one of the things I've talked about, and even the Dell Inspiron 5100 video that I had done, I had commented on how tinny and cheap the speakers really sounded. And the same thing, sorry, not the same thing, the HP Pavilion that we did a video on, again, I'll put those two little boxes here on the screen so you can see what I'm referring to. But essentially those two systems, had stark differences. The HP Pavilion had just beautiful sound. It just sounded really good. It had the Harman Kardon speakers in it versus I don't know what the Dell had. My feeling is this system here as well has very similar. Now, I realize as a mobile workstation, you have the system and you're doing business presentations. It was aimed at the business market, being a precision. But I would say, there's downtime as well. If you're traveling on the road, it'd be nice to have, you're in a hotel, you're working away, nice to have better speakers, whether it's just to watch a simple movie or at the time or, YouTube or whatever you're watching. And then the same thing with, if you're doing presentations, what happens if the presenter doesn't have the speakers, or even through HDMI, for some reason, it's not connecting to the external projector speakers or other forms. So just having better speakers in these systems, it's not that big of an upgrade or expense. So I couldn't see it. That's just my little rant for the day. Okay, so we have our power button that's sitting up here, which we won't press just yet. And then we have our full-size not full-size keyboard, obviously. A full-size keyboard sitting here like this. But, there's plenty of space. You can see that the keyboard keys are offset from the center, obviously, because we have a full numpad on the system, which is, getting fewer and fewer and far between today, unless you're getting a certain type of form factor PC. But, this is extremely handy, specifically if you're doing any sort of number crunching or, different things that require numbers. And, I just hate hunting and pecking up here. I've been learning to type for years and years and years. By having this, it's just really, really nice to have that as an option while you're working away. There's plenty of palm rest here. There's no fatigue while you're working along this and you have to switch over here. You're not risking bumping anything as you're going around this whole area, moving your hand left to right to try to access the different areas. So when you're typing away here, you still have lots of room. You still don't have the threat of accidentally touching the screen. I've worked on a few laptops and used a few laptops that, you'll be typing away, and then every time you do something, your mouse moves or selects a different window or something because you've done that. It still has that track point right in the center, and a lot of the Dell business PCs had that as well. And one last thing is we have the fingerprint reader here for extra security. So I don't know if it has a TPM chip. I think it does in order for it to do that though, but keep me honest in the comments. And then we also have an indicator for like a smart card for tapping, similar like your credit card has that chip reader here as well for enhanced security. I imagine that's what that would have been used for. Okay, I'm going to turn on the machine and see if we can get into the system BIOS or the system setup. I believe it's F12. It might just be boot options. Yeah, preparing one-time menu, it said. Oh yeah, okay, all right. So then we have the option for legacy boot, so internal hard drive or the actual optical media, or we have other options, which is BIOS setup and diagnostics. Okay, let's go into the BIOS setup. Okay, and we're here, and I got a better zoom for everybody to be able to see the screen. I love how it is a complete GUI to be able to go in and utilize this. So, all right, so we'll go under settings, under system information. And we have lots of great stuff in here. So we have the BIOS version, which is fine, a whole bunch of information regarding the service information. Then memory installed is showing 16 megabytes, or 16 megabytes, imagine, 16 gigabytes of memory here. And it is DDR3 memory with 4 populated, looks like 4 gig sticks here. So I believe that this system is 32 gigabyte compatible, that the max memory in this, which is just, again, absolutely amazing being a mobile workstation from 2011. It says, due to the amount of system or amount of memory being assigned for system use, memory available is less than memory installed. Note that certain operating systems may not be able to use all the available memory. All right, processor information. We have a Intel Core i7 2860QM, so quad core, and then it runs at 2.5 gigahertz. So definitely not a slouch. And when you think about it, you know, you're talking back in 2011 having that, that's just absolutely awesome. All right, so we have, continuing on here, okay, so it does talk about the cache here. So we have 1 megabyte of L2 and 8 megabytes of L3 and hyper-threading, and 64-bit, no less. So, you know, definitely a well-capable machine 12 years later. And you know, you can tell by the hardware that's in this so far that that's pretty good. And then, so our primary hard drive is a 256 gig hard drive. That's the only thing I would probably upgrade just because of space restrictions. But my understanding is it's a solid state drive. But having a 12-year-old solid state in here, you know, I don't know if it presents risk of data loss or not, but probably a good idea to do a mirror of the drive and onto a larger drive. And then, so sure enough, there's the fixed bay device of a Blu-ray. And then it says mini card SSD device. So it does support a mini card as well. So you can put another SSD in here. System eSATA device. Of course, that's the external port we saw. Then you have a dock eSATA device. So if that was on the docking station, that's my understanding of what that would be. And then, so our video controller, we have an NVIDIA Quadro 2000M. And I believe that has, yeah, there it is right there. 2 gigs of memory, video memory available to the system. It's a 15.6 inch full HD screen. 1920 by 1080 is its native resolution. This is just an absolutely beautiful machine. You know, if this was plopped in front of me, outside of the form factor and it being so hefty and everything, I would probably say, you know, I'd be like, yeah, you sure it's only like, you know, not a couple years old, you know, outside of the processor, you know, if I didn't know that being the generation that it is, but again, not a slouch. So then we have our audio controller here, a Wi-Fi device, Intel wireless, and then cellular device is none. So, I mean, this has the ability to put a SIM card in possibly. So that way you can have a service running and be able to go around and don't have to worry about any of the wireless connection. Today's technology, you have tethering now, you know, back then it was less common. So then we have Bluetooth device is installed. So that's the overall system information. Now, under battery information, it says here, you know, primary battery is 100%. Health is normal. AC adapter is 180 watts. There you go. I mean, it's a 180 watt AC adapter. So it's pretty hefty. Okay, so boot sequence, pretty straightforward. But I just love the, it even supports UEFI as well. I mean, that definitely gives it additional options, and I'm not sure if this BIOS has ever been updated. It's holding the date and time, absolutely no problem there. So that's wonderful. All right, so system configuration, let's click on that. We're not going to go through everything here. You know, nothing is turned off here as well. And then, so keyboard illumination, so it's disabled, but this computer does have a backlit keyboard as well. I mean, as if it didn't have enough features, it has that as well. So if you're working in a low lit environment, your whole keyboard will light up. Then we have our miscellaneous devices. So your fixed tray, you can go ahead and turn on and off different cards. If you want to enable and disable and free up certain resources on the system, you can do that through here. So under video, we have LCD brightness. So just, you know, basic settings to tell you when you're plugged in and when you're not plugged in. Settings outside of Windows, of course. Then we have a pile of security information in here that you can enable, turn off. It has TPM security here as well, which is good, as I mentioned earlier. Under performance, we have multi-core support, Intel SpeedStep, C-States control, Intel Turbo Boost, hyper-thread control, just chock full of different features for sure. Power management, pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go through that. Post behavior, so adapter warnings, mouse touchpad, numlock, so you can go through these different things and tell it to stop the system or let you know there's certain issues with the system and different functionalities, etc. So wireless, we have a wireless switch as well, so it enables your WWLAN. So I believe that WWWAN, sorry, I believe that's a cellular card. WLAN, so wireless LAN, and then Bluetooth as well. Under maintenance, we have our service tag and our asset tag, and then we have our system logs. That is the system set up for the Dell Precision M4600. I mean, this system is absolutely chock full of goodies. I am not surprised that this is still functioning. I'm glad it's been well taken care of, because this system today, you know, being 12 years old, is definitely a fully functioning system. Okay, I'm going to hit exit. We're going to jump into the operating system on the computer here. Let's see what the system did. I just hit exit. Let's see if it just does a reboot or not. Yeah, it's doing a reboot now. It's so quiet just because of the solid state technology, but those fans, when they turn on, are definitely loud. Okay, what do we have for an operating system on here? Windows 10. So it did come with a Windows 7 professional license. I mean, we are seeing Windows 10 installed here. So very fully functional system, even in 2023 from 2011. I'm stressing that because, again, because of the different technologies and the different systems that we've worked on, where you talk about bringing them to the age. Well, this is a computer that's 12 years old, and it is functioning just fine. Okay, here we are signing in to the Retro Recall. I believe I've set the screen resolution from 1900 to 1200 down to a different resolution, just so everybody can see the screen. I know how hard it can be looking at the screen through the camera. So I'm going to jump into just Device Manager here just to look through some of the stuff here. Yeah, so all the drivers are installed. I mean, there's nothing in here that we would be surprised to see. So it's nice to see everything installed there. Now let's jump into the performance of the system. Thanks, Windows, letting me know that you're phasing out some editing software. Okay, let's jump into the Task Manager for a moment. And so under Task Manager, you can see all the different, the performance meter here. Okay, so we have our GPU. And again, having the dedicated graphics is really neat to have as part of the system. So we have our 2 gigs of graphics memory here, but it also has an option that it can utilize shared GPU memory of 8 gig. So it has the ability to use 10 gigabytes of memory if required. So it will pull from the system RAM if it needs it, but primarily it will utilize it. You can see it's just doing no activity on the shared GPU memory, but it is utilizing the memory of the dedicated graphics. And as you know, as you're using dedicated graphics, it frees up the resources on the system. And there's the NVIDIA Quadro 2000M. All right, and so for CPU, there we are. We have the system handling absolutely no problem. I mean, it's running Windows 10, and we just turned it on. We have a solid state drive running Windows 10, and it's having no problem loading up all of this stuff. And it's very, very snappy. In terms of memory that we're currently utilizing, so 4 slots, so it has 4 of 4 SODIMM memory. I believe it's DDR3 that's installed on this. I think that's what we saw. If not, I think that's what it is. And we have our Wi-Fi, and then we have our GPU here. Okay. All right, I'm going to close that off. Even though it's an older system that would have came with an early version of Windows 7, it has been upgraded. And the hardware, based on what I'm reading on the service tag information, is all original. There's nothing that's been replaced in this system. No additional memory. This was all pre-built this way. So outside of the operating system being installed, nothing else has been upgraded. But that difference going from Windows 7 to Windows 10 puts it right back in the game. Now, can this run Windows 11? I know that there's a requirement around TPM 2, I believe you have to have. And I believe the system only has TPM 1, or the very first entry level one, or the first version of it. That would be the limitation of this system, unfortunately, because if it had that, I would bet that you could put on Windows 11 onto the system, no problem. I just love this system. I just absolutely love this system. All right, well, I can't even type. All right, believe it or not, this keyboard's actually really, really nice to utilize. Let's load up a game here and see how the system works and test out the speakers.
Emergency lockdown is in effect. Turbo lifts have been sealed to contain the explosion.
So there we have it. We have the Dell Precision M4600, so M4600 from 2011 running in 2023. And I will dare say that I don't think that this is going to be going anywhere anytime soon, and there's lots of life left in this laptop. The fact that it is running on 12 years and absolutely no issues. The system runs very smoothly, quite snappy, no problem playing a couple games, even though that wasn't really what this system was designed for. It's a mobile workstation. That said, if you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps this channel grow. Hit the notification button, change it to all. You'll be notified when there's new content such as this. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about the video. Let me know what you thought about the machine. If you had one of these in your past, or you still have one of these in your collection, and do you use it today? Definitely reply to all the different comments that I have down below. I love the interaction on the channel, as I let everyone know all the time. Really appreciate all my viewers. I'm always making new content. We will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.